Pleased at this time to be joined by Coach Pap. I'm just going to go there, Coach, because I know, I'm from Alabama and I live in Georgia. And so Coach is the head football coach at Judson. Coach, it's an honor to have you. We don't get too many head coaches on here, so I appreciate you joining me.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me. I'm excited to kind of go through this thing. It's an important topic.
Absolutely. Coach, tell everybody kind of where you got your start, how you got to where you are today, before we really get started on this talk about recruiting.
Sure. So I've been coaching since I was 20 years old. I started back at my alma mater, and I was a coach who did whatever needed to be done. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to coach, so I just kind of watched everyone around me. Now, I had the benefit of being involved with a program that had, at that point, had won 2 state championships in a row, would go on to win 7 state championships in a row. So I pretty easy to say I learned from some of the best. But the one thing that mattered the most was be willing to do any job and pretty much be the hardest worker that there is. My head coach was Tim Rackey, who's won 6 or 7 state championships now. Only coach in Illinois history to do it at 2 different schools. So I learned from him more about coaching than from anyone else. And I'd say I was really lucky, one, to be involved with him, but at the same time, the hard work kind of makes the luck, if that makes sense. It's kind of cliche Absolutely. A little bit. But when he moved on to a different school, he wanted me to go with him, and I got to go with him because he saw my work. Still, in my head, I had no idea what I was doing, but at the same time, thought I knew everything that I was doing and what was the right way to do it. But he just saw that work ethic, that doing the stuff behind the scenes, being a football junkie, kind of doing it when I didn't have to be doing it. That led to a lot of the luck in my life. In coaching in general, and especially in the college level and high school, even to a degree, it's a lot about who you know and the relationship got me to where I'm at today is kind of going through that process and meeting some good people along the way and, making meaningful relationships.
Absolutely, Coach. Tell everybody that's listening maybe a little bit about Judson, where you guys are, who you play, kind of so we can get the perspective of where we're going from here.
Sure. So Judson, we are in a faith-based Christian university in Elgin, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. It's about 45 minutes from Chicago. It's a really awesome area. Our campus is really cool because it's wooded and it's on a river. And we're 15 minutes from Schaumburg, which is one of the largest commercial cities in Illinois. We started our football program technically this year. So our first group on campus was this class of 2019. And right now we're in the process of bringing the second class on of 2020, and that'll be the first year we play games. So we did not have games last year. This coming season will be our first year. And then the following season in 2021, we will join the MSFA, the Mid-States Football Conference, which is one of the best NAIA conferences in the country. And, we'll be ready to go for 2021.
Awesome, Coach. Well, I mean, that's exciting times. Would you say that you guys probably recruit more of your kids out of Chicago, or do you get guys from all over?
We have been casting a wide net. Being a Christian school, the demographics in certain areas don't line up very well for us. Our school does take all denominations, but the Christian faith is something that's very important to us. So it's something that we don't force it. So we expect them to take a part in it and understand that kind of stuff. So we have, right now, I think we have players from 13 states on our team. Awesome. So we've kind of gone all over just trying to find the right kids to fit our program. And it was a little bit of a hard sell the first year. Hey, come on to a brand new camp or brand new school's football team. Our school's been around since 1963, but brand new football team. Oh, you're not going to play any games your first year either. So it was a little bit of a difficult sell of, hey, just come here and practice. So for us, we're just kind of telling them, you guys are the group that gets to build the foundation.
That's right.
you hear about the college traditions at all these places, Notre Dame, you hit the sign, Clemson in the Rock, and, all these, I said, you guys get to make the traditions. That's the really cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Coach. I'm right now, I don't know if you know exactly where I am, but I'm probably 20 minutes away from Reinhardt, who has started probably 7 or 8 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But they were in some of the same boats you guys were in when they were starting. And then they've got a good recruiting area, so they've got some pretty good players picked up, and they've been made some noise in NAIA lately. So I know all about that. I got friends coaching there. Well, I appreciate you joining me, Coach. I just want to put everybody in perspective of where you were, and being a head coach, you're going to have a very unique perspective on this. So we give this same talk. I do this over and over and over again, and I put all the videos kind of together in this category of college recruiting. But, we talk to different types of people, and in this case, we're getting an AI head coach. So we really want your perspective on what talking to parents, talking to players, and talking to high school coaches, what are things they can do to help themselves and also maybe to help you guys get a better evaluation of them. So I always put up these 5 things. I think these are steps. I don't think they're check marks, meaning you don't do 3. You got to do step 1 to get to step 2. You got to do step 2 to get to step 3. You got to do step 3 to get to step 4. I've been saying 90 to 95% of the people get cut off in step 1 or 2.
Yep.
Is that probably fair to say?
Yep. Unfortunately, most guys do not get past those first 2 steps. That's for sure.
Yeah, they either don't have the grades and have some ability, or they don't have the ability that you guys would be looking for, but they do have some grades. If you're able to have both, you can get into, now we're splitting hairs and we want this guy or this guy, and we may use things like character and work ethic to make those determinations. And then I always talk about flexibility, because one of the things I asked you about getting guys from other ways, if I'm here in Georgia and Judson offers me, am I really fully prepared to go there? Because if I'm not, I don't think the kids need to be wasting folks' time. I think you, the coach, determine them first 4 if you'll take it. But then that kid really's got to know, am I just playing around, or am I really going to go move to Illinois? Because that may be where you get offered. You may not get offered this at Georgia or Georgia Tech. Your offer may be in Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, and you need to go there. The best kid I coached in high school ball the best offer was at Minnesota, and so he played at Minnesota. Sometimes that's what you have to do. I don't have a specific question for you on this, but can you attest to that these are the things you all are looking for, and maybe at what capacity, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, the grades being number 1 is probably the best thing they have on here, because, and we have a little less strict academic standards than a lot of schools do, but immediately we can eliminate, a third of the people that are probably wanting to go play college football due to grades. And one of the most sad things is having to tell a kid that you've built a relationship with through recruiting, hey, we can't get you in here no matter what. And you're right, that is number 1, because after that it is what matters. We've had a lot of high ability kids that have had to go the junior college route because the grades don't make the cut. Now the junior college route is not bad, but it's not what most people have in their head when they think about going to play college football. So it's for sure those 2. And then to add on to your flexibility, so that's a big part of what we found too. Like I said, we have kids from 13 states on our roster, so we've kind of cast a wide net. And flexibility south of Orlando in Florida is not really worth it, because the culture shock of coming up from South Florida to the Chicagoland area, if anyone sees a winter here, they're not coming back. I don't blame them. I want to follow them most of the time as well. But it's just such a different type of environment that it just doesn't make sense for them. And you almost don't want to pull a kid out of there if he doesn't know it's not even right for him yet, But the other part of the flexibility thing is we kind of take a lot of anyone who played quarterback, I want to recruit you. I might not want to recruit you to play quarterback, but if you're the quarterback of your high school team, you have that leadership, you have that work ethic, it's almost checked off automatically. And I know you have a wider knowledge of the offense than most other players, or a wider knowledge of football in general. So if I slot you at safety or corner or wide receiver, or if you're big enough tight end, you have an advantage over a lot of other people because your knowledge of the game. Right. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that, if that's what you want to do and that's who you want to be, go be that. But if you have your heart set on getting this scholarship or that scholarship or a certain amount of money, you might need to have that flexibility of saying, yeah, I'm willing to go play a different position. Or if I like the D line, but this school really wants me to play O line, you kind of have to make that decision as well.
Right. It just has to be some give and take. I can't speak for you guys, Coach. It's a long way from here to Chicago, but down here, people are just so, I use this word a lot in this topic, they're just ignorant of the process. And I quantify that always with, I don't mean they're stupid or dumb, or ignorant means they don't know. Yeah. And it's like they get to the end of this process and it amazes them that they might have to pay a little bit, or that their only option is in Illinois. And I really am doing this because I want people to be able to watch this stuff. This is the only thing we really do in our little project we're working on that is also for parents and kids. It's not just for coaches. I want this to be for coaches too, but I want people to know, okay, I've got the best ninth grader on the ninth grade team right now. I think he's the greatest guy ever. I think he's going to Georgia. Maybe I need to educate myself on what this process is. And it very likely, I don't think people quite get, Coach, how good of players y'all have on your team. I don't think people realize how good you got to be to come play for you guys, for Reinhardt, for places like that.
And that's the thing that I've saved, and I know I'm talking to someone in Georgia, so it's a different conversation, but he somehow convinces the best player in the history of a state in a lot of situations to come be a second and third stringer for a few years on his teams. Mm-hmm. A lot of that has to do with, what they can promise them, but that is something that most people, a lot of parents think their kids are Division I, but then when you see a Division I football player, there's no doubt. You don't have to question whether a Division I football player is a Division I football player, especially in high school.
Right. When the training part of this, we tell them, when it's just me kind of trying to teach this course, we talk about, look up people's website, find the height and weight. I went to Alabama. Look at, I couldn't play at Alabama. I barely was good enough to get into college there, but I did. And, but go look at what the height and weight of a linebacker is. And your kid's 5'9", and he leads the region in tackles. He probably doesn't need to waste a day at Clemson's one-day camp.
Yep.
Or Alabama's, but he really can play it. If they're a ball player, they make him play at Judson. They got to be a ball player at 5'9", but they may. And so instead of blowing that off or not thinking that that's even an option for you, focus on that. And then if something big comes around, of course, we're not going to get – you guys I know wouldn't be mad at a kid that got a big offer late, but, kids just have to be realistic about this process. And I just know how many good players are on – just how many good players are on those teams, on those NAIA teams. I mean, I go watch these teams practice, and some studs on these teams. And I don't think people really understand that. Let me ask you this, because I don't like I said, most people I talk to are high school coaches, and I get a few college guys, but what is the head coach's role? I know you guys are new, but fast forward 5 years from now, and you're in the same role you are now. What is the head coach's role at your level in recruiting?
Usually at the NAIA level for us, the head coach is going to be pretty heavily involved in recruiting. Most of the time, NAIA doesn't have huge football budgets, so you don't have, 5 full-time, 6 full-time people on your staff. We're fortunate to have 4 full-time right now, and we're trying to add some other full-time in creative ways, so GA positions and stuff like that. So the head coach, and especially us, because we're recruiting so many kids right now, has to be involved. And for us going forward, the plan will be, I will always have a certain territory that I will continue to recruit, because it's important to do. And the head coach needs to be there for every visit that happens on campus, and needs to make those visits the most important or the best day of that kid's life. You know, it might be a big recruit day where there's 30, 50 recruits. There might be a day where there's 2 recruits. We got unlucky this year twice, so it didn't really snow much up here this year. But our 2 recruiting days, which were like 3 or 4 weeks apart on Saturdays, that night and into the morning. So we went from having, 30 guys expected to come to down to 10 and 12 because they couldn't get here because of the weather. So but still, you still need to make those 10 guys feel like it was just as important as if there was 30 guys there and it was a huge recruiting event. So that's really the thing with the head coach. And then it's putting your assets kind of in place to be able to make sure that you're recruiting the right type of people, how you're recruiting, where you're recruiting, and what you're really trying to accomplish with that.
Yeah, awesome, Coach. That's just a perspective. I was a high school head football coach for a long time, and I still, you don't know exactly what you guys do. I didn't normally get to see the head coach unless we got far along with somebody, obviously. So, it just always an interesting question I have. I want to focus on these 3 groups of people next, and I kind of want you to just take these questions wherever you want to take them. But first, I want to talk about players, student athletes. The number one question I will get is, how do they get more exposure? Well, feel free to answer that question if you want. But also think of the question in terms of, what is some advice that you have for a player right now? Like, what is something they need to be doing that they can control, or anything else you want to tell a player that you think would educate them on this?
So there's a few things that go into it. People that are going to be watching this are going to be watching this too late. What we find a lot is players really don't understand, one, football might not be that important to them when they're a freshman and sophomore, or they might not see that football can get them somewhere in the future. And so they don't take their grades as seriously. You had that slide up earlier, and that is so true. But we have so many guys that are trying to dig their way out of holes that they put themselves in freshman and sophomore year. And, we get their transcripts in the freshman and sophomore year are a bunch of D's and some F's and then repeats. And then you look at their junior and senior year, and it's, C's and above. And a lot of times our admissions can do some things with them if there's a story behind it where they can help them in. But sometimes it's just they put themselves in too big of a hole to be able to really dig themselves out of it. So, that's the biggest one. Also the most obvious one, right? Everyone talks about grades.
Right.
The exposure thing, I'm not telling you not to, but you shouldn't have to use recruiting services like, I'm not going to name them, but the recruiting services that are out there, you shouldn't have to use.
You shouldn't have to pay. Is it fair to say, Coach, you shouldn't have to pay?
You shouldn't have to pay. I'm not saying that they don't do a service for some certain subgroup of people, but especially nowadays, recruiting has changed so much. I'm 37 now, so when I was playing, I had no clue what I was doing. Was dubbing VHS tapes, and I just did it in order of the games in the year, and you pick your 10 schools to send them out to because it's not cheap to send out VHS tapes. And then you just hope, you pick the schools and hope that they found you. Nowadays with Huddle, everything's been changed. I can get film on anybody almost instantly. And then even more than that, social media, especially Twitter, I can find any player from any state. We've got kids from 13 states, and a big part of that reason is because we can find them on Twitter, or they can find us easily on Twitter, and they might not know about us because 99% of the people don't know about us, especially because we just started football. But through Twitter, I can get a conversation and give some information out, and they would never find us normally. Now, the one thing with Twitter and other social media is you have to be careful, because some players first to collect offers to post them and to post the graphics that they send. I know it's cool. I get it. It's when I'm 37, which sounds old to most of you players listening to it, but it wasn't that long ago. I know what that it's cool. It's cool to be wanted like that by a college. I get that. But some of us, when we see 11 offers on a page and he's still trolling for more offers, sometimes we ask the question to the kid, why are you looking for more offers? What haven't you found at the previous 11 or 12 schools and different about with those. So there's that part of it, and the other part of it is clean up your social media. So watch who you're following, watch who you like, watch who you retweet, because that stuff does matter. Because especially at our school, a Christian school, our president might ask me, "Hey, who's this kid that you just offered to that has X, Y, or Z on his Twitter?" And they're a real quick way for me to have to say, "I'm sorry, we can't move forward with this."
No, that's great, guys. I hope everybody heard that. And if you're a player, I hope you rewind and listen to it again for about the last 2 minutes, because you heard from you. Here's the deal, Coach. You didn't say anything that everybody else isn't saying,
right,
but they need to hear that from you guys. And I really appreciate you doing this, because this is the type of good folks we need, taking your platform and actually saying it out to as many people as possible. Because, people need to hear from you. They hear it from the high school coach and they don't believe it. Can you tell us, I'll ask a side question that before we get on to the next group. What about highlight tapes? So you're watching, you get these highlight tapes from Huddle. It's pretty easy to make a tape. What can you say 2 or 3 things that you guys would maybe advice you would give somebody on creating their highlight tape, what to do with it to catch your attention?
So a couple things right away. Use the tools that Huddle gives you to put your information up front. Your Twitter handle, your phone number, your email address, put your GPA, put your ACT, SAT scores on there if you have them, because it allows coaches to right away say, okay, I know how to get a hold of this person, and I know if they can even get into my school or not. And then the other part of it is don't put every play you were ever involved in. None of us have enough time to watch a 10-minute highlight film, and we're not going to. It's not realistic. So put your best plays as your first 3 plays. And it isn't you intercepted an overthrown ball by 10 yards it's for us, we look at things like, okay, he broke on the ball on time, he read the quarterback's eyes, he made that break, he made a pass breakup is sometimes better than an interception that was thrown right to you. It's the things that the things that when your coach in film session on Monday is saying, holy cow, this was exactly what we needed you to do. That's the stuff we're looking for, not the highlights, if that makes sense. Yeah, the highlights are nice. You have a run where you run a guy over, you break a guy's ankles, you have a great throw, great catch, whatever that might be. And some of my favorite film to watch is O-line, because you'll see the play might be 9 seconds long, but they basically show you a 3-second clip of them blocking, and then the play cuts and it's on to the next one. If you're a quarterback who makes a nice throw, you don't necessarily need to have the full 11-second play where you throw the ball to the receiver and then the receiver runs for 15 yards or 20 yards or whatever afterwards. It's okay, you made the nice throw, cut that down and go to the next one. So the one thing I would say is make 2 highlight films. Make the highlight film for you and your family and your friends, and that one is cool. And now being a 37-year-old guy, every once in a while, it is kind of fun to go back and remember what it was like. But then make one that you want to give to college coaches and for them to see, that pretty much highlights who you are as a player in as few plays as possible, to really show them.
Yeah, I think that was great, Coach. It's something else we've all been saying, but they need to hear it from the horse's mouth right there from the head coach. Put your best 2 or 3 plays in the front. Nobody's watching. Don't have this game 1 and 2-3 minutes worth of junk and game 2 and 2. Just pick your best. I've seen it for 20 years. The coach can sit down. They will give you a few seconds. They'll watch a few plays. That's all you're going to get at first. If you haven't stood out in those first few plays, there's just not enough time in the day. So, guys, if you're building your highlight tape, please put the best plays first. And my advice would be, Coach, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but I would say maybe let your coach look at it. If you're making your own tape, say, hey, Coach, are these my best 3 or 4 plays? Or, let them watch the whole first minute and let them tell you if you got the best 3 or 4 at the front, because they probably got the best knowledge of what you guys are looking for. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I never really thought of that, but that's the perfect thing to do.
Well, we used to do it. Go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
Sorry, the one other thing I forgot to mention is the Huddle tool that you can highlight yourself before the play ever starts. A lot of them, for some reason, will highlight it 2 to 3 steps in. But for us, when we're watching it again, especially linemen and stuff like that, your first step is so important. And rewinding highlight films is not nearly as easy as rewinding like huddle clips.
Right.
So it becomes left guard. Okay, what were his steps? So something like that, little stuff like that.
No, that's good advice too, Coach. That's perfect. That's what we're trying to put together, as many little things like that to help people. Let's move on to the next group of people, which I don't know that you deal with as much directly, but you do indirectly. The parents of the prospective student athletes. All of them ask this question. It's a real simple one. What do they need to do to help their kid? Obviously, they see it with rose-colored glasses. Their kid's the greatest. And you know what? That doesn't offend me like it does some people. I don't see why they wouldn't see it that way. Good for them. You know, they should be for their kid. They got to be realistic. But, you know, if they're not cheering for their kid, who would? But what is something a parent can do? I know my rant about this, but I'm going to ask you, what is something a parent can do to help their kid?
So the number one thing, I mean, I know parents for the most part are pushing anyway, but grades is obviously important for them to push. But also letting I think a big one is trying to find a way to support their child in whatever level they might get to. It's something like 97% of high school football players do not play college football.
Yep.
And then of that 3% or whatever it is, some even smaller percent of that gets a scholarship. And of that percentage, it's some minuscule amount that gets a Division I scholarship. But it is a bit to play in college, any level, Division III, NAIA, junior college. It is, most people do not get to do that. And that is something that is really cool. So for parents, it's supporting your kids to make them not feel bad that they didn't get that Division I scholarship. The other part of it is to help. The FAFSA for us is one of the biggest things that they can do. So especially in Illinois, there's additional money if you're in state that is state money. And it's probably the same for most states.
Yep. Yeah,
but that goes away, serve kind of idea. So the second you can get your FAFSA filed, get it filed. Now, you might not even have a school on there, which is fine. You add the school codes later, and you just have to resubmit it. It doesn't change your original submission date, but it allows you to get some access to some of that money. So that's the biggest thing that we have with the parents, is to try to get that done, and understanding where that falls in the process. There's some schools, like for example, us, we don't offer a scholarship until the student is accepted into the school. And we do that for a variety of reasons, but it's kind of to protect the athlete and ourselves. So I'm not going to promise you a certain amount of money, and then it comes back that I promised you too much money because you're getting some money from federal money, and there's not even that much money to give you. And part of it's to protect the players and to protect the school as well, just so we're not throwing out 500 offers and then hoping someone bites on it. It's to the student, or to make us realize that they are at least interested enough to go through the process of applying, filling out their FAFSA forms, all that kind of stuff.
That's good advice, Coach. And, you know, my take on both of those, parent and players, is real simple. If they want to do something to help themselves or their kid, do the things you actually can control and quit worrying about the things you cannot. And that, what they want to ask you is, tell me some magical answer. I don't know, Coach, because I want my kid to go to Georgia to play linebacker. I don't have the magic answer for that. But I can tell you, if your highlight tape is lazy because you didn't bother taking the time to do it the way a head coach just asked you to do it. If you're a parent, you haven't helped with FAFSA. If you're not insisting on good grades, then you're not even doing the stuff that you can control. And so as much of a cop-out as it may sound, to deflect that question back to grades and stuff, that really is what you can do. Because just like anything in life, Coach, you guys aren't going to try to do anything other than win every game this year. Y'all are going to try as hardest to win every other game. If you lose some, you lose some. But you can look in the mirror and say, we did all we could do. That's what your goal is. Your goal is not to win every game. Your goal is to do everything you can do, to look in the mirror and say, we did the best we could do. We got X amount of wins. it's the same way with these parents and players, Coach. Wouldn't you agree? They just need to do everything they can do.
Yep. I mean, 99% of it is genetics, and it was predetermined a long time ago whether or not a kid was going to get to go Division I or not. That's such a big part of the other thing with parents, and I would encourage you to do is I want to talk to your coach that's recruiting you. It's something that we do that's a little bit, I don't know how unique it is, but it's something we try to focus on because, so a couple things. Most levels of college will not give you full rides. Okay, you have Division I that'll give you full rides. It's $25 a year. And then Division II will give you some full rides, but sometimes they split them and they only have, depending on the conference and the school, they have a varying number of scholarships. Division III will obviously give you some academic money and some grants. I don't know of any schools really giving full rides out at any high level. So what happens is we'll provide the student with a financial package, which includes the scholarship, includes, whatever federal money from the school. And then the kids look at it and go, I don't know what any of this is. So what we try to do is we try to get the phone number of the parents who are going to help their kid make the decision typically to talk to them. So what do you not understand about the financial aid? And listen, I'm not a financial aid expert, but we have people that work at our school that are financial aid experts. So then I try to get you in touch with them in order to talk to the people that can help you most understand. Right now, I mean, the cost of college, doesn't matter what college it is absolutely outrageous. And I don't see that changing anytime. That extra little $1,000 here, $1,000 there matters a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. I really, appreciate you doing this. This is good stuff for people to hear. The last group I want to talk about is the group I fell into, high school coaches. And this is my take on this, Coach. I don't know any high school coaches purposely not promoting their kids. I know some people, parents come back and say, Coach so-and-so is not helping our kids. I just don't see that. I don't. Now, I think some coaches are better than others at promoting their kids. I think there's some truth to that. But I don't know anybody that's purposely not trying to help kids. As a high school coach, we want everybody on the team to go Division I. We want them all to go somewhere. What do we care? I mean, we wanted them all to go where they want to go. But I do. That's a cop out because I got a slanted opinion as a coach. What can the high school coaches do better for you when you go into a high school or your guys go into a high school? What are some things high school coaches should be doing better, or better yet, what are some of the best places? What are they doing?
So actually, you guys in Georgia are one of the recruiting fairs that you guys throw with your head coach that's the best in the country by far. But the big thing about why, I mean, it's really nice having everyone in one place, but the big reason why is has a listing of all of his players, and coach, you're not going to get this guy, he's Division I. You're not going to get this guy, he's Division II. You might have a chance at this guy. Listen, this guy is undersized, but he's a hard worker. He's the leader of the team. He's being honest about the guys is really important. You don't ever badmouth a player, but you also don't want to oversell a player, because what happens is if you have a player that's really talented on film, I'm going to see that. And if you tell me he's a hard worker and then he gets on campus and he's not a hard worker, is a hard worker that might not be as athletically talented. If you tell me he's a hard worker as well, I'm going to kind of be like, is he though? And you're not bad-mouthing a kid. It's just being honest about it. You're never going to stop him from getting a scholarship. His work ethic has either put him in a place where you can glowingly talk about it, or you can say, you know what, he's got all the potential in the world. If you guys can find a way to tap into his work ethic and find a way to draw that out, that's how you might have the best chance to have success with him. So it's not ever bad-mouthing a player, but it's being more honest about where they're at. You know what? He's not a great athlete, but he knows where he's going. He's a step faster than everyone else to get to the ball because he just diagnoses plays faster. It's stuff like that you can kind of see on film sometimes, but you don't have a real way to put a finger on it. That helps us understand the individual a little bit better.
Coach, that's a great answer. And, I'd say the same thing. My advice to the high school coaches is always, obviously one is be honest. Two, same story as the other two groups. Do what you can control. when the coach comes in your building, have all their information, phone numbers, emails, grades, transcript. Don't make them go hunting, all that stuff. Have it right there for them, and then be honest. And a lot of times our relationships build over a period of time. And even I've got a ton of friends that are college coaches that have been all over the place that, it just doesn't do you any good to lie to them. You're going to have to work with them again later. And, it's just one of them things. But I do think coaches are trying hard. I know here in Georgia we do have a ton of good players, and we get the word out. Everybody sees that as part of their deal. I think that's becoming more and more prevalent across the country. Coaches doing a really good job of getting their players' names out. And in a weird way, has that made it harder for you guys because that market's so saturated with just people constantly flooding you with who you ought to take?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily harder, but we probably miss more guys than we ever did before because just with pure bandwidth, you can't really watch all the film. You can't respond to all the Twitter, DMs. And unfortunately, you can't. You have to prioritize some positions at times. You have to prioritize some locations at times. It just kind of is where you're at in the process that year, or what kind of support staff you have on your those inquiries that come out from all over the place nowadays.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, again, I really appreciate you taking your time. If there's anything else, you can get it out there. If not, we can let you go. I know you're busy, but if I ever make it up to Chicago, I'll stop by and catch a game or something. I'll be up that way. I really will fit in well up there. So
sounds good. I need to come down by you guys sometime at end of actually the beginning of December when you guys do your recruiting.
Yeah.
So that I can,
when you do, you let me know.
Here, so.
Yeah, when you get down here, you let me know. I'll take you to some good place to eat or something.
Absolutely will. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. Take care, Coach. I appreciate you.
Thank you.